our next speaker is going to come and talk about how to sustain quality and drive continuous improvement in internal audit. And for that, I'd like to invite Junaid Khan, who's the Manager of Quality Assurance at the Etisalat Group in UAE. Junaid, please give him a big round of applause.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Junaid Khan. I work for Etisalat Group. My topic is internal audit and quality assurance. Having heard some of the discussion this morning, I know it's a very dry topic and some may be boring. So I tried to make some changes on the run. So I just had a brain quake and made some changes. So hopefully I'll be able to relate quality assurance to your organizations and what you do. Just to start off with, there's a brief agenda, but as I said, I'm not going to follow that. So we'll start with the definition of quality assurance, what it means, what are the key drivers for quality assurance, why it's important for your functions, some of the benefits that you can drive from quality assurance, what chief audit executives feel as are the key hurdles for implementing a proper quality assurance program, examples of leading practices, so some practical examples that you can see where organizations have successfully embedded quality into their processes. And then we talk about quality assurance framework and wrap up with some questions. So just a key point, quality should be built into the process, not on top of it. So just keep that in mind when you go through our discussion and some of the examples. And also when you ask those questions, this should be the principle that you will try to strive towards. So what is quality assurance? There are 4 key principles within quality assurance. Number 1 is to have a systematic measurement, have a standard to compare against, monitoring of processes, and then feedback loop so that you can continue to improve your processes. The key principles have a product that is fit for use and error-free. So that's a general definition of quality in any organization, any industry. Now, how does that relate to internal audit? We need to develop approaches that get the greatest value from our investment in quality reviews. It's all down to value, as my friend discussed this morning. How does internal audit add value? It's the same for quality assurance. How do we get the best value from our reviews? We need to establish a process and tools that ensure transparency. So it's not something that we're making up. It's something that we can actually demonstrate in terms of transparency. And also to foster a culture of continuous improvement within the organization. So it's not like a one-time thing. It's something that's embedded in the culture of the organization. And should I start again or it's okay? Okay. So the third point is to foster a culture of improvement. So it's not a one-time thing. We continue to have quality improvement initiatives within the process and the way that we do work. So what are the key drivers for a quality assurance program? We talked about the Institute of Internal Auditors. So they've defined a framework for internal auditors as a guideline. It's not mandatory, but a lot of internal audit teams consider it to be mandatory because it provides a basic framework for internal auditing in any organization. So that's, you can call it a regulatory requirement. It's not a regulatory mandatory requirement, but it's something that people aspire to go towards. Another driver is stakeholder expectation. So stakeholders expect from you, from internal audit, to be the ears and eyes within the organization, and also to provide them assurance that risks are being managed effectively within the organization. You have an external audit reliance. So the external auditors have an incentive, or you have an incentive to have a quality program in place, so that external auditors can rely on you, potentially reducing the fee, reducing increasing level of assurance, and finally, your own departmental aspirations. So departments, internal audit should also aspire to be one of the best in class, compare against the peers. So those are like some of the key drivers for quality assurance. Now, at this point, I'll just move away from my presentation and try to relate to what we've done at Etisalat Group. So you probably saw my profile, my background. I'm an IT auditor, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm an MBA, I'm a software engineer from FAST, so I belong to Karachi. But with all of that, why did I end up in quality assurance? So at Etisalat Group, we operate in 15 different countries globally, most of them in emerging markets. So emerging markets, you tend to see internal audit functions that are not very mature. So that was, I would say, an opportunity to get them to a certain stage of maturity. The first point. Number 2, each of these markets have their own unique kind of challenges in terms of regulatory compliance, risks, legal compliance, people problems. So how do we ensure at the group level that none of those come and bite us from a regulatory perspective or a legal perspective? So we set up we set up a strategy, maybe 3 years down the line, we want to be best in class across all our footprint, across all 15 companies. To start off with, we thought, well, let's set a baseline. So let's all go and achieve what is the minimum requirement by the Institute of Internal Auditors. So that was a key driver in setting up a quality assurance program within Etisalat Group. That include, and also by getting to a certain baseline, you know where you are, where you need to be, what are the steps you need to take to get there, and also you can demonstrate your credibility to your stakeholders. We've done that very successfully in a number of places. As Shadad mentioned, Shadad Yusuf here for Pakistan. Pakistan was the first listed company in Pakistan, PTCL first listed company in Pakistan that was able to achieve this accreditation. In the UAE, we were the first listed company to get this accreditation by the Institute of Internal Auditors. In Morocco, we were the first listed company. So we like, from our internal audit functions in these countries, we like one of the leading practices that other departments can try to aspire to be like. Now, I said some benefits of the quality program. I've talked through some of them. Quality on its own probably doesn't sound too important, but when you think about the end-to-end performance management process, it's actually core to it. So how does performance management work? You set objectives, you measure, you find the gaps, and then you look at improvement. Quality kind of like helps you to actually measure those improvements, whether they've been tangible updates, tangible improvements to make to your process or not. As I mentioned, what other benefits? You're complying with international standard as a function. You have a level of comfort that you're quite comparable to other organizations globally. You also have credibility, so you can demonstrate that you achieve at least a minimum baseline. So credibility with the stakeholders, internal and external. Also, one of the requirements of quality assurance is to align with stakeholder expectation. So again, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, how do you add value to an organization? You only add value to an organization when your strategy is aligned to the organization's strategy, and you focus on the future as well as the past. And also benchmarking. The quality assurance program lets you benchmark against peers globally. So you know in terms of structure, rules, responsibilities, policies and procedures, where do you stand and what you need to do. So now just talk about some of the key hurdles to implementing an effective quality assurance program. And this is based on surveys from a number of chief audit executives across the globe. So the first one is to actually determine the timing. There's something missing there, okay. The first is to actually determine the timing. So what chief auditors struggle with is to determine when should a quality review be performed. Should it be performed at the start, during, end of the audit, how far often audit, once a year, once a quarter. So getting that timing right, so it adds most value to your process. The second is to establish very clear guidelines that are consistent and concise, and everyone can understand on how to go about doing an audit, a quality review. Yeah? And thirdly, is to make sure those improvements are not one time, they're actually embedded in the process. So those are some of the key challenges or key hurdles that chief audit executives have suggested as part of implementing successful quality program. We'll talk through some of them through leading practice examples. Some other general issues that we find is that audit departments tend to focus on the wrong KPIs. So you kind of track the timelines of an audit. So audit is delivered successfully on time. For a lot of departments, that is success. Another measure is measuring client satisfaction. At the end of the audit, you send a survey out to customers, they give you feedback. The problem with that is clients tend to find it difficult to emotionally detach from an audit. So if you're giving someone a red report, expect a poor feedback. I mean, it's not always the case, but it's very difficult for a customer to stand back and detach from the result of an audit. What that means is that we are focusing on the wrong, this is the wrong presentation anyway. We are focusing on the wrong KPIs. The final thing that people struggle with is to come with the right mix. Quality versus quantity. Do we do a lot of reviews with a low quality, or we do less reviews but higher quality? So coming up with the right mix, that's also a challenge that a lot of organizations face. Now we just talk about some of leading practice and how they go about fixing this challenge. So this is a typical end-to-end audit cycle. So you start with planning, design, execution, and reporting. As you can see, this organization has actually built in checkpoints within the process. So at various stages of execution, you will have a meeting with the key stakeholders, including the quality partner, who will make sure that the audit is on track we're looking at the right elements. So for example, you may have a meeting after you've done your planning, and whether you're looking at the right risks, or whether even the audit is should be done, whether worth doing it or it's just not worth doing, and you can can it and do something else. Another checkpoint could be when you come to the findings, just to make sure they make sense. Is there potential to look into other areas based on the fieldwork that you've completed? And then another checkpoint could be your ranking meeting. So when you come up with drafting your audit, just to make sure that it's consistent, all the team members are using the same definition for a high risk issue, for a medium risk issue, for a low risk issue. So your message coming out from the department to your stakeholders is consistent and it's defendable. So a lot of organizations build these quality checks into the process and do not wait towards the end. But that doesn't stop you doing a quality review at the end. What you should be doing is doing a root cause analysis. So when you've done your checkpoint reviews, you've done your end of the month or end of the audit assignment review, you're probably going to find a lot of areas for improvement. What's important here is to then think about what are the root causes or themes for those areas for improvement and come up with solutions to actually fix them. Now, for example, you may be seeing that there's not a consistent rating being applied to issues. So one team is rating a very low issue as high, whereas another team is rating high issue as medium. So when you go to root cause, you may find that the definition of what a high, medium, or low risk issue is, it's not consistent or has not been established. So that could be the root cause, and you go in and fix it. And then once you fix it, you move on to the next phase, which is actually training. So now you fixed it. How do you inform your audit team, your staff, and your auditees what that means? You go through a training program, you teach the new standards, and then you monitor. So that is like a phased approach, as an example, that you could potentially think about implementing into your audit program or audit processes. Now, a bit more general. So I work with the IAA, the Global Institute of Internal Auditors. I'm one of their quality assessors. So I work for Etisalat, but I also work for the IAA. As mentioned, Pakistan already, PTCL have already IAS certified. So this is something that I think a lot of organizations should aspire towards, is to establish an end-to-end quality assurance program. What are the key components? You start off with implementing internally a quality assurance and improvement program. That means setting up a team and setting up standards, tools, methodologies, and initiating ongoing monitoring of your quality of your audits. Once you reach a certain level of maturity, you do a self-assessment. Where do you stand against the standards? What are the gaps that you need to address? And whether you are ready to go for an external assessment. The last stage is the external assessment. Here, you get the Institute of Internal Auditors to come in and benchmark you against your peers, benchmark you against the standards. And basically, this involves interviews with stakeholders, surveys that you do beforehand, and on-site review of files. What you get out of it is where you, again, benchmarking against your peers globally, as well as an audit report. What are your weaknesses and where you need to go and improve. And that's a cycle. So you continue to do that. You do that on an audit basis, and then you do that on an assessment basis. External assessments need to be done every 5 years if you want to comply with the standards. So you do that every 5 years. Now, just to summarize what I said, if you're interested in setting up a quality assurance program, there are 5 major steps that you need to do. First, develop your standards, your tools, on how you are going to go about implementing a quality program. Then do a benchmark assessment. Where do you stand today? What are the gaps that you need to address going forward? Set up a timeline. Don't be too ambitious. Timelines depending on the maturity of your organization, where you sit. Also, it's important to get the stakeholder buy-in, so you can't do all of this without getting your board and audit committee to actually buy in. And then start a QA program. That one means setting up a team. The team could be a permanent team, or it could be like people doing part-time, but set up a team that is dedicated to delivering this program, if you're really keen in making this successful. Then begin the reviews. So you have a team that's doing the reviews, but you also do a peer-to-peer review. So I review someone else's audit, or someone else reviews mine. So there are 2 benefits to it. Number one, you're covering a wider area, but also I'm getting trained, and my team members getting trained on what are the key quality issues that we need to address. And then finally, develop and monitor improvement and performance. So develop a dashboard, report it to the audit committee, report it to your stakeholders on how you're maturing within the quality curve. That's it for me. I didn't want to take a lot of your time. I said, if you've got any questions, we can go through it. And I'll be happy to share any practical examples that you'll be interested in. Thank you.